Why did the bride run away on the wedding day? Why did the makeup artist become a wedding robber? What secrets are hidden behind this? Let's walk into Isolde's story together. My name is Isolde. I live in a prosperous first-tier city. I was born in a middle-class family with good family conditions. From childhood to adulthood, I have received a good education and developed an independent and rational character. When I reached the right age for marriage, I embarked on a blind date arranged by my family. It was a sunny weekend afternoon. I met Xavier for the first time in an elegant cafe. He has an upright figure and handsome face. Although his clothes are simple, they are very neat. During the conversation, I learned that he came from a single-parent family and had been raised by his mother with great effort. Although his family conditions are not very good, he has performed well at work with his own efforts and talents, and has good development prospects. The gleam in his eyes, his plans and visions for the future, all deeply attracted me. In this realistic blind date market, many people pay more attention to material conditions, and people with potential like Xavier are rare. I admired his ability and liked his appearance, so we started dating and gradually reached the stage of discussing marriage. As the wedding date approached, various preparations were also carried out in full swing. Weddings are the most important moment in every girl's life, and I am no exception. I carefully selected the wedding dress and wedding company, and went to try makeup with Xavier, striving for perfection in every detail. However, I never expected that a storm was quietly brewing on the eve of the wedding. The night before the wedding, the two families got together to discuss the specific matters of the wedding. From the wedding process to the guest arrangements, to various trivial details, everyone discussed it very carefully. It was late at night when everything was finalized. I dragged my tired body back to the room, looking forward to tomorrow's wedding, but I was a little uneasy. Lying in bed, I tossed and turned and couldn't fall asleep. The scene of tomorrow's wedding kept emerging in my mind. I imagined myself wearing a white wedding dress, walking towards Xavier, and opening a new chapter in my life with the blessings of relatives and friends. I don't know how long it took before I fell asleep in a daze. The next morning, before dawn, I was awakened by the alarm clock. Today is my wedding, and I want to appear in front of everyone in the most beautiful posture. After a simple wash, I sat by the bed, waiting for the makeup artist to arrive. The sky outside the window gradually turned pale, and the city slowly woke up. A new day began, and I was about to usher in the most important moment of my life. But I didn't expect that what was about to happen would completely change my destiny. The morning sun shone through the gaps in the curtains of the hotel room and sprinkled on the soft carpet, forming golden beams. I sat by the bed, looking at myself in the mirror, who was a little tired but full of expectations, and took a deep breath. Today, I will become Xavier's bride. A knock on the door broke the silence in the room. I got up to open the door and saw a young girl standing at the door. She had a big makeup bag on her shoulder and a professional smile on her face. "Hello, Isolde. I'm here to put on your makeup." Her voice was crisp, but for some reason, I always felt that there seemed to be something hidden behind its smile. She walked into the room and immediately began to look around. The hotel room was decorated very luxuriously, with exquisite oil paintings hanging on the walls, dazzling crystal chandeliers, and a faint floral scent in the air. After scanning the room, her eyes fell on the hardware and expensive accessories on the table, and a trace of imperceptible greed flashed in her eyes. "Isolde, is your husband so good to you? He booked such a high-end hotel for you for the wedding, and the hardware was prepared so decently. It's really enviable." As she spoke, she put down her makeup bag and began to organize the tools inside. I frowned slightly, feeling a little disgusted. All the expenses of this wedding were actually paid by our family, but she took it for granted that it was paid by the man and didn't even ask a question. But I thought, she is just a makeup artist. There is no need to explain this to her, so I just nodded politely and didn't say anything. She didn't seem to notice my displeasure and continued, "It's expensive, right? I really envy you for finding such a generous man." My disgust became stronger and stronger, but I still resisted it. She began to prepare my makeup, and while preparing, she suddenly asked without thinking, "Isolde, why do women nowadays love to steal other people's things? Are they born to be cheap?" I was stunned. I didn't expect her to ask such a strange question, but she looked nonchalant, as if what she just said was just a very ordinary sentence. The anger in my heart began to burn. What does this mean? Is she making a veiled accusation? But I don't know her at all. How could I steal her things? Just when I was about to ask, she had already started to put on my base makeup. I suppressed my anger, thinking that it was too late to change the makeup artist now, so I would talk about it after the makeup was done. After putting on the base makeup, I was so tired and didn't sleep well last night, so I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep. I thought that since she was a professional makeup artist, there shouldn't be any mistakes. When she needed me to open my eyes, she should take the initiative to communicate with me. I don't know how long it took. I opened my eyes again, and when my eyes fell on the mirror, I was shocked by the person in the mirror. Is that me? It was just a stranger. My eyes were painted thick and black, like the caterpillars lying above my eyes. The color of the eyeshadow was extremely strange, bright red and green. It looked very weird. The blush was as red as a monkey's butt, and the color of the lipstick was so dark that it made people look pale. I frowned, and the anger in my heart reached its peak. Just when I was about to ask the makeup artist what she was doing, I saw that she kept looking down and holding back her laughter, and her shoulders were shaking constantly, as if she had seen something extremely ridiculous. I gradually realized that something was wrong in my heart. It was obvious that she did it on purpose. To be fair, it seemed that I had never offended her, but why did she do this? I frowned, thinking about various possibilities. When she met my eyes, the girl couldn't hold back any longer and burst out laughing. She ran behind Xavier, who had just opened the door while laughing, and pulled the suit on his back with her little hands. Sorry, Isolde. I didn't mean to laugh. I really didn't expect Isolde's face to be so suitable for makeup. After saying that, she continued to cover her face and hold back her after, hiding behind Xavier, her eyes full of malice. When I saw Xavier come in, I felt an inexplicable sense of relief, as if he could solve this absurd situation for me. However, the moment Xavier saw my makeup, his reaction made my heart sink to the bottom of the valley in an instant. He was stunned at first, and then the corners of his mouth slightly raised, revealing a faint smile. This smile stung my eyes, and I felt a strong sense of uneasiness in my heart. He looked down helplessly at the girl hiding behind him. Instead of blaming her, he said in a familiar tone, "You were fine the last few times. Why did you fail again today? What, do you want me to marry a Crayon Shin-chan?" There was a hint of ridicule in his voice, as if it was just a harmless joke. The girl shrank her neck, stuck out her tongue, and said coquettously, "You asked me to make up your bride, but I can't be so generous." Her eyes flashed with pride and provocation, as if she was announcing to me that she and Xavier had a special relationship. Hearing their conversation, I felt dizzy, as if the whole world was collapsing in an instant. I never thought that this makeup artist actually knew Xavier, and the relationship was so close. A strong anger and disappointment surged in my heart. I stared at Xavier closely and asked, "What does this mean? Did you know each other before? What's going on now? Is it a wedding or a play today?" My voice trembled slightly because of anger, and my eyes became red unconsciously. Xavier was questioned by me. His eyes were a little evasive. He opened his mouth as if he wanted to explain, but he didn't know what to say. From choosing a makeup artist to trying makeup and finalizing the makeup, Xavier was with me throughout the whole process, but he never mentioned that he knew this makeup artist. Did he want to give his ex a job opportunity? Or was he still in love with her? I picked up my phone and frantically found the contact information of the backup makeup artist, trying to keep my voice calm. Asked her to apologize to me. I'll call someone to come and remake my makeup. I'll go down when it's done. We'll talk about compensation later. At this moment, I just want to get rid of this embarrassing situation as soon as possible and calm myself down. However, Xavier suddenly reached out and pressed the hand that was about to make a call, frowned and said, "Is it necessary? You look like this." There was a hint of impatience in his tone, as if I was making trouble for no reason. I couldn't believe my ears. I was so angry that I was shaking all over. I laughed in anger. "Xavier, what are you talking about?" The girl heard it and laughed. "Isolde, how can you talk about girls like that? After so long, you were still so straight." Her laughter echoed in the room like a sharp knife, piercing my heart. I couldn't stand it anymore. I picked up the makeup remover and rushed into the bathroom. I looked at the funny face in the mirror and couldn't help but burst into tears. While I was removing my makeup vigorously, I asked myself in my heart, what did I do wrong? Why did I encounter such a thing? After removing my makeup, I called my parents, and my voice was crying. I told them what happened at the wedding and said that I would consider whether to get married again. If I go on today, I think I will regret it. Anyway, the two parties have not obtained a marriage certificate. I know that doing this may cause trouble to my parents, but I can't care so much anymore. I don't want to enter the palace of marriage under such circumstances. Xavier stood outside the door, and his face instantly turned gloomy when he heard what I said. He was about to speak, but was stopped by a pair of soft little hands. The girl gently hugged Xavier's waist from behind and said in a tender voice, "Isolde, Isolde doesn't want to marry you, but I will. Propose to me. Didn't you promise before that you would marry me?" As she said that, she actually stood on tiptoe in front of me and kissed Xavier's lips. I stared at this ridiculous scene with wide eyes, and the anger and humiliation in my heart reached its peak. I saw Lorelai's greedy eyes when she stared at the hardware and expensive jewelry on the table. It turned out that she had planned it from the beginning. Xavier froze, tilted his head slightly, and his eyes struggled. When he spoke again, his tone was filled with a little guilt and excitement that he himself had not noticed. Let Man attend the wedding for you today and clean up the mess for you. You can rest assured that she will still be your wife. Go down and tell your parents don't make any trouble. Of course, you can make a fuss. His words were like sharp blades, piercing my heart. He was sure that I would swallow my anger for the sake of my parents' face. I finally remembered her name, Lorelai. Lorelai looked at me with a look of boasting after success. She looked straight at me, silently raised the corners of her mouth, and showed me a provocative smile as if she had obtained a wealth of wealth. I also saw that she had already put on exquisite makeup under the mask, which was very different from the makeup on my face. Even her hair had been braided in the style I had decided before. Oh, this was premeditated. Sorry, Isolde, I don't want to leave any regrets for myself. If you want to report me to the store, then go ahead. Her voice was full of pride and indifference, as if she was announcing her victory to me. Looking at her arrogant appearance, my anger was burning in my heart, but I knew that being angry at the moment would not solve any problems. I had to calm down and think about what to do next. I looked at Lorelai's smug face, and the anger in my heart surged like a surging tide, but I tried to keep myself calm. I stared closely at the exquisite makeup under her mask, which was the weapon. She carefully prepared to show off her victory to me. Her hair was neatly braided in the style I had chosen before, and every strand of hair seemed to tell her conspiracy. At this moment, I suddenly realized that all this was planned by her for a long time. She had planned to snatch my wedding and my groom from the beginning. Her greed and selfishness made me feel extremely disgusted. Tried to calm myself down, and then turned and walked out of the room. I know that this is not the time to be impulsive. I need to calmly think about what to do next. I found a quiet corner and called my parents. The moment the call was connected, I heard my parents' concerned voices and my tears burst out again. I told them everything that happened at the wedding, with a crying voice and heart full of grievance and anger. Mom and Dad, I don't want to get married. I can't get married under such circumstances. I sobbed. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment, and then my father's steady voice came. And amen, Mom and Dad understand your decision. We support you. It doesn't matter whether you get married or not. Your happiness is the most important. My father's words were like a warm current, warming my cold heart. My mother also said on the side, Yes, baby, don't be sad. That boy is too unreliable. We don't want him. With the understanding and support of my parents, a big stone in my heart fell to the ground. I was worried that they would disagree with my decision for face or other reasons. After all, many prominent figures were invited to this wedding, and a temporary cancellation might cause them some trouble. But at this moment, I know that no matter what happens, my parents will always be my strongest support. After hanging up the phone, I began to think about the hotel's balance. This hotel hosts mid to high-end banquets. The deposit is paid in advance, but the balance is paid after the wedding. When the two families discussed at the time, they decided that Xavier's family would pay the deposit and the woman's family would pay the balance, totaling 700,000 yuan as part of the dowry. The deposit is 30,000 yuan, and the balance is 700,000 yuan. Aura asked Xavier to sign a contract with the hotel for face. Although it was stated that the balance would be borne by the woman, my name was not written below the contract. Now the woman has become Lorelai. According to the contract, Aura can only ask Lorelai for this money. Thinking of this, I felt a little happy. Didn't Lorelai want to rock the marriage? Then let her taste the consequences. She thought she could get everything easily, but she didn't know that a huge debt was waiting for her. I won't let her succeed so easily. I want her to pay the price for her behavior. I want her to understand that some things are not something she can take away just because she wants to. Her greed and selfishness will only make her suffer the consequences. Lorelai wore the wedding dress that my parents spent a lot of money to customize for me in advance. Although the wedding dress was a little ill-fitting, she came to me like a proud peacock, holding her head high and showing off. Her face was filled with a smug smile, and every step she took was particularly light, as if the whole world was at her feet. Isolde, this dress seems to fit me better than you. Lorelai deliberately turned around in front of me, letting the skirt of the wedding dress fly up, her eyes full of provocation. Ah, Isolde, really? He didn't even order the wedding dress according to your size. I have to talk to him about it in the future. He doesn't know how to take care of people at all. He is really a straight man. As she spoke, she gently stroked the exquisite embroidery on the wedding dress with her hands. She looked so proud that she seemed to have become the happiest bride in the world. I looked at her coldly, with disgust in my heart. I knew that she was deliberately trying to anger me. She wanted to see me angry, furious, and collapsed so that she could get satisfaction from it. But I wouldn't let her succeed. I took a deep breath and tried to keep myself calm. Really? Then congratulations, I said lightly without a trace of expression on my face, as if her words had no effect on me. Seeing that I was unmoved, Lorelei was a little angry. She gritted her teeth and continued. By the way, Isolde just called a professional makeup artist with more experience to come over temporarily. He charges 10,000 per hour. He said that it is unreasonable for the bride to do her own makeup. He is still the same as before. He doesn't listen to advice at all. He is not frugal at all. Isolde, don't mind it. It really cost you money today. Her tone was full of sarcasm, and every word was like a sharp knife, stabbing my heart. I sneered in my heart. It seems that Xavier is not ignorant, but just doesn't want to pay attention. I just wore a makeup that was obviously not suitable for me, but he said that I looked like this. No matter how expensive the makeup artist was, it would be useless. When it was Lorelei's turn, he considered it comprehensively and even hired a professional makeup artist. But does he have money? This money will eventually fall on my family. Seeing that I still didn't react, Lorelei became even more unscrupulous. She came close to me and said in a low voice, Isolde, thank you for your generosity today. You fulfilled a wish that Isolde and I had before. After that, she covered her mouth and chuckled, her eyes full of pride and sarcasm. I couldn't hold back the anger in my heart any longer. I stood up suddenly, looked straight into her eyes, and said coldly, Lorelei, don't be too proud. Do you think you really won? You were just a jumping clown. After that, I turned and left, leaving Lorelei standing there alone, with the smile on her face instantly frozen. Xavier really put a lot of thought into making Lorelei happy. Not only did he hire a professional makeup artist for Lorelei, he also had someone remove the poster that originally belonged to us and replaced it with a photo of him and Lorelei, and the bride's name was also changed to Lorelei. He thought that this would make Lorelei feel at ease as his bride, but he didn't know how stupid his behavior was. Didn't he know that doing this would only make me more determined to leave him? Lorelei also became more and more complacent, in order to show off in front of her sisters. After learning from Xavier that the woman's family paid the balance, she asked the hotel staff to temporarily add a few very expensive dishes to each table. One table added 5,000 yuan of dishes, and after 20 tables, an extra 100,000 yuan was added. She also said to Xavier smugly, I will punish your wife to add bricks and tiles to our wedding. Hehe, am I very bad? Xavier not only did not stop her, but smiled and said, well, she has learned bad things. It's time to make her bleed a little. She is really not as obedient as you. Their conversation was like a handful of salt sprinkled on my wounds. Looking at their green and ignorant appearance, my heart was full of contempt. They thought they had everything, but they didn't know what kind of consequences would be waiting for them. I can't wait to see the day when they will suffer the consequences of their own actions. Lorelei's arrogance and complacency made my heart burn with anger. I suppressed my anger, turned downstairs, and found a few girlfriends. They were my bridesmaids today, and they were supposed to be upstairs with me, witnessing the most important moment of my life. Unfortunately, Aurora was the only one in Xavier's family, and she was too busy to handle many things, so I asked them to come down to help. Unexpectedly, this gave Lorelei an opportunity. Seeing me coming downstairs, my girlfriends gathered around me and asked me what happened with concern. I told them everything that happened, and they were all indignant after hearing it, and they all stood up for me. Too much. How could this Lorelei do this? She is openly stealing the marriage. My girlfriend Thalia was so angry that her face turned red, and her hands clenched into fists. That's right, and Xavier, how could he do such a thing? Is he worthy of Isolde? Another girlfriend, Juniper, also said angrily. I looked at them, and a warm current surged in my heart. In this most difficult moment, I was lucky to have them by my side to support me. Sisters, I don't want to let them get away with it. We can't let Lorelei succeed. Doesn't she want to wear my wedding dress? I won't let her have her way. I gritted my teeth and said, with determination in my eye. My girlfriends listened to me and nodded in agreement. So we went upstairs together and found Lorelei, who was showing off triumphantly. When Lorelei saw us coming in, the smile on her face froze for a moment, but she quickly returned to her arrogant look. Hey, isn't this Isolde and her sisters? Why, are you here to bless me and I, Isolde? Lorelei looked at us provocatively, her tone full of sarcasm. I ignored her provocation, walked straight to her, and said coldly, Lorelei, take off your wedding dress. This is my wedding dress. You don't deserve to wear it. Lorelei's face changed suddenly after hearing what I said. She stepped back, grabbed the wedding dress tightly, and said loudly, Why, this wedding dress is mine now. Olda said that this is a gift from him. Don't even think about snatching it away. He said he would give it to you. This wedding dress was customized for me by my parents at a high price, and it has nothing to do with him, Xavier. I refuted without showing any weakness. Lorelei was speechless after being refuted by me. She was angry and screamed at us. Don't go too far. This is my wedding. You have no right to interfere. Your wedding? Do you think you can become a bride if you put on a wedding dress? You are just an unscrupulous third party, a despicable villain who destroys other people's happiness, Thalia accused angrily. Lorelei's face became extremely ugly, and her eyes flashed with anger and unwillingness. She knew she was in the wrong, but she still refused to give up easily. Don't talk nonsense here. It's me who loves you deeply. It's always me. I'll be the one to take charge of this wedding today, Lorelei shouted hysterically. I looked at her crazy look, and my heart was full of contempt. I winked at my girlfriends, and we went forward together to try to take off her wedding dress. Seeing this, Lorelei struggled desperately, and she screamed while struggling, You dare. If you dare to take off my wedding dress, I will never let you go. But we were not intimidated by her threats. We worked together and finally took off Lorelei's wedding dress. Lorelei was stripped down to her underwear. She screamed in horror and covered her body tightly with her hands. Her face was full of anger and grievance, and tears rolled in her eyes. Isolde, you've gone too far. Here's humiliating me. I won't let you go, Lorelei cried to me. I looked at her and said coldly, You asked for it. If you dare to do this, you must be prepared to bear the consequences. After that, I threw the wedding dress on the ground, stepped on it a few times, and then turned around and left the room with my girlfriends. Lorelei was so angry that she was shaking all over. She cried and called Xavier. After Xavier received the call, he didn't even care about entertaining the guests and hurried up. As soon as he went upstairs, he saw Lorelei being stripped down to her underwear, squatting on the ground and crying. His pupils suddenly contracted, and his handsome face instantly became as dark as ink. What's going on? Who did it? Xavier roared angrily. When Lorelei saw Xavier coming, she threw herself into his arms, as if she had seen a savior, crying, Isolde, it's Isolde and the others. They are so bullying. They stripped off my wedding dress and humiliated me. You must help me. Xavier's eyes flashed with anger after hearing what Lorelei said. He gently patted Lorelei's back and comforted her. Man, don't be afraid. I'm here. I won't let you get hurt. After that, he stood up with Lorelei in his arms, then kicked the door open and took Lorelei to another dressing room. When he left, Xavier looked at me with anger before the storm. Isolde, you're great. I'm downstairs helping your father to secure business partners, and you treat me like this. Then you can treat them yourself. His eyes were full of warnings, as if telling me that if I continued to make trouble, he would not give up. I looked at his back, my heart full of disdain. Did he think he could threaten me like this? He is too naive. I have never been a person who will be threatened. Since he chose Lorelei, he should bear the consequences. In order to let Lorelei continue to be his bride happily, Xavier waved his hand and used his last 100,000 savings to immediately order a wedding dress for Lorelei. It only took 20 minutes for a special person to deliver it. This wedding dress cost 100,000 to rent for a day, 100,000 yuan just to make Lorelei calm down. Although it is not as good looking as the one I have, it is not bad compared to other ones. Now Lorelei is even more certain that Xavier has become rich, that Xavier forgot that the makeup artist he arranged for Lorelei does now charge 20,000. Now he has spent the last 100,000, but still has to face the makeup artist, fee and the final payment for the hotel. He will soon pay the price for his impulsiveness and recklessness. The wedding continued in chaos. Xavier and Lorelei stood on the stage, accepting the blessings of the guests. Although the guests all noticed that something was wrong with today's wedding, everyone tacitly kept silent. Some people were talking quietly in the audience, guessing what happened, but no one dared to speak out loud. Xavier and Lorelei's faces were full of smiles, but I knew that behind their smiles, there was uneasiness and anxiety. Xavier looked down at the audience from time to time, with a hint of nervousness and worry in his eyes. He knew that today's incident had become a big deal, and he didn't know how to end it. Lorelei pretended to be calm, and she tried to make herself look happy, but her eyes revealed a hint of uneasiness and fear. She knew that her behavior today might bring serious consequences, but she had no way back. Looking at them on the stage, there was no ripple in my heart. Once, I was full of expectations for this wedding and full of love for Xavier. But now, everything is over. I have seen Xavier's true face, and he is no longer the person who is worthy of entrusting my life and my heart. I believe that time will prove everything. Their happiness is only short-lived, and what awaits them will be endless pain and regret. The next morning after the wedding, the sun shone through the gaps in the curtains and onto my face. I slowly opened my eyes and looked at the familiar room. What happened last night came flooding back to my mind. I sat up, took a deep breath, and told myself that everything was over and I had to move forward. Just then, the phone rang suddenly, breaking the silence in the room. I picked up the phone and saw that it was Xavier calling, and a feeling of disgust surged in my heart. I hesitated for a moment but still picked up the phone. "Did you go home last night?" Xavier's voice came from the other end of the phone, with a hangover of fatigue and a hint of dissatisfaction. I couldn't help but laugh and asked back, "What else? If I don't go home, will I go to watch you and Lorelai's wedding night?" Hearing my sneers, Xavier seemed to realize that he asked a stupid question, and his tone was a little angry. "Isolde, you are still making trouble, right? I have to explain to the relatives today. You can pack up and come to the new house to find me. The hotel also called me and said that the final payment is required. This should be your family's business, but we are married now, so I'd better go with you." I couldn't believe my ears. Xavier still didn't recognize the situation. He actually thought I would go with him to deal with these things, and said that we were already married. The anger in my heart burned again, and I yelled at the phone, "Stupid X, do you understand the situation? We are over, and the final payment of the hotel has nothing to do with me. You can find a way to solve it yourself." After that, I hung up the phone and threw the phone aside. I got up, washed, put on a clean and tidy set of clothes, and looked at myself in the mirror. I swore to myself that I must make Xavier and Lorelai pay for what they did. I walked out of the room and came to the living room. My parents were already sitting at the dining table. When they saw me coming out, they showed concern on their faces. "And Annan, how are you?" Mother asked distressed-like. I forced a smile and said, "Mom, I'm fine. You don't have to worry about me." My father came over, patted my shoulder, and said, "Annan, don't be sad. This kind of man is not worth your sadness. Dad has asked someone to deal with the hotel. Don't worry, you won't be wronged." I looked at my father gratefully, and my heart was full of warmth. With the support of my parents, I felt full of strength again. After breakfast, I drove to the cosmetics store where Lorelai worked. I wanted to ask her for compensation and let her take responsibility for her wrong behavior. I walked into the cosmetics store, and the customers and employees in the store looked at me in surprise. When the store manager saw me, he immediately smiled and came up to me. "Isolde, happy wedding. How come you have time to come to the store? Are you dissatisfied with our service?" I looked at the store manager coldly and said, "Happy wedding. I think you are mistaken. You should not know what happened yesterday." The store manager looked at me blankly and asked, "What happened yesterday?" I sneered and told the store manager everything that happened at the wedding yesterday. After hearing this, the store manager's face became very ugly. She couldn't believe her ears and looked at me with shock and confusion. How is this possible? How could Xiaoman do such a thing?" The store manager said in disbelief. I looked at the store manager and said, "This is the fact. If you don't believe it, you can ask Lorelai." At this time, Lorelai came out from the inner room. When she saw me, a flash of panic flashed across her face, but she quickly regained her composure. She looked at me provocatively and said, "Isolde, why are you here? Are you here to bless me and I, Isolde?" I looked at Lorelai, and the anger in my heart burned again. I said coldly, "Lorelai, don't be too proud. Do you think this matter is over? You ruined my wedding and made me lose face. You must give me an explanation." Lorelai said disdainfully, "Explanation? What can I say? This is all your own fault. Who told you to steal my eyes, Isolde?" I was so angry that I trembled all over. I pointed at Lorelai and said, "You are talking nonsense. It is obviously you who are shameless and snatched someone else's fee. People like you are simply morally corrupt." Lorelai turned pale after being scolded by me. She was angry and screamed at me, "Don't slander me here. Isolde loves me. It has always been me. You are just a substitute." Just when we were arguing fiercely, Satyr suddenly walked in. When he saw us, his face became very ugly. He walked to Lorelai, protected her behind him, looked at me and said, "Isolde, have you had enough? What do you want?" I looked at Xavier. My heart was full of disappointment and anger. I said, "Xavier, don't think you and Lorelai can succeed. What you did is illegal. I will not let you go. I want you to compensate me, or my losses, and apologize to me." Xavier sneered and said, "Compensation? Apologize? Don't dream. You asked for all this. If you had been obedient, none of this would have happened today." I couldn't believe my ears. Xavier actually said such a thing. He had been completely deceived by Lorelai and became so selfish and shameless. I looked at Xavier, and the last bit of fantasy in my heart was completely shattered. Okay, Xavier, this is what you said. Since you are unwilling to take responsibility, don't blame me for being rude, I said coldly. After that, I took out my mobile phone and called the police. Xavier and Lorelai's faces turned very ugly when they heard me call the police. They didn't expect that I would really call the police, and they began to panic. Isolde, are you crazy? You actually called the police, Xavier said angrily. I looked at Xavier and said, I'm not crazy, I'm just defending my legal rights. You wait, the police will come and give me justice. Soon, the police arrived at the make-up store. After they learned what happened, they took Xavier, Lorelai and me back to the police station. In the police station, I told the police the details of the incident and took out photos, videos, and other evidence. After listening, the police severely criticized and educated Xavier and Lorelai and asked them to compensate for my losses. After mediation, the makeup store finally compensated my makeup expenses 10 times in accordance with regulations. Lorelai was fired for fashion ethics and company regulations, and causing serious losses to the store. She also realized that her behavior was wrong, but it was too late. After leaving the police station, I took a deep breath and a big stone in my heart finally fell to the ground. Although this wedding caused me great harm, I also saw the true colors of Xavier and Lorelai, which allowed me to stop the loss in time. I believe that I will be able to find my own happiness in the days to come. After the wedding farce, life seemed to have returned to peace, but Xavier and Lorelai's life was in a mess. Xavier and Lorelai got married naturally, but their married life was not as happy as they imagined. Xavier soon discovered that Lorelai seemed to marry him more for his material conditions and future development potential rather than true feelings. Lorelai's grief for money and excessive pursuit of material things made Xavier feel extremely tired and disgusted. Every day when she returned home, Lorelai always complained about her unsatisfactory life, disliked the decoration of her home was not luxurious enough, and disliked Xavier for not making enough money to satisfy her desire for luxury goods. She often quarreled with Xavier over trivial matters, such as Xavier forgetting to buy her favorite brand name bags, or not taking her to high-end restaurants for dinner. Every time they quarreled, Lorelai cried and accused Xavier of not loving her and not valuing her, which made Xavier exhausted. And Lorelai gradually realized that she seemed to have misjudged him. Xavier was not as rich as she imagined, and he was not able to satisfy her fantasy of a rich wife's life. She originally thought that marrying Xavier would allow her to live a life of luxury and comfort, but she did not expect that life after marriage would still be full of hardships and helplessness. Xavier often worked overtime until late at night for work and was exhausted when he returned home. He had no time and energy to accompany her. Lorelai felt that she was being neglected, and her dissatisfaction and resentment in her heart became deeper and deeper. As time went by, the conflicts between the two became more and more, and the quarrels became more and more frequent. Xavier began to deliberately avoid Lorelai. He often used work as an excuse to work overtime at the company until late, and even went out to drink with friends until late at night before going home. And Lorelai became more suspicious of Xavier's feelings for her. She began to secretly check Xavier's mobile phone and track his whereabouts. The trust between the two disappeared. At the same time, Xavier's work was also in trouble. Because of the uproar with Isolde, he gradually lost the resources and connections he had obtained from Isolde's parents. His clients were lost, his performance plummeted, and his boss's attitude towards him became increasingly cold. In the company, he felt unprecedented pressure and exclusion, and his colleagues looked at him with strange eyes. In order to repay the final payment of the hotel and maintain his living expenses, Xavier had to borrow money everywhere. After his friends and relatives learned about his situation, they all kept their distance from him and were unwilling to lend him money. Xavier felt that he was in a desperate situation. He began to regret his impulse and stupidity. If he had not been with Lorelai and had not done those things that hurt Isolde, his life might not have become what it is now. Under great pressure, Xavier's temper became more and more irritable. He often got angry with Lorelai for a little thing and even beat her up. Lorelai was beaten all over, and her heart was filled with fear and despair. She wanted to leave Xavier, but she didn't have the courage because she was pregnant and she didn't know how to live with the child alone. After Aura learned that her son and Lorelai's marriage had problems, she did not mediate but blindly favored her son. She felt that Lorelai was an unsatisfied woman who always caused trouble for her son. She often sneered at Lorelai, saying that she was not worthy of her son, making Lorelai more isolated and helpless in this family. Lorelai lived a life worse than death in this family. She lived in fear and pain every day. She regretted her original choice and regretted that she lost everything in order to snatch the marriage. She once thought that as long as she could be with Xavier, she could have a happy life. But she didn't expect that what was waiting for her was endless pain and torture. And I learned all this from a little cousin of Xavier's family. She was a relative of Xavier's family who had the best relationship with me before. She was supposed to come on the day we were getting married, but because she was preparing for the final exams, she couldn't get leave. So she didn't come. When she knew that I couldn't become her cousin's wife, she felt sad. She would share Xavier's recent situation with me from time to time. Although I rarely replied to her messages, she didn't mind. Every time I heard about the miserable life of Xavier and Lorelei, there was no ripple in my heart, but I just felt that things are impermanent. Once, I also had expectations for Xavier, thinking that he was the one who could walk hand in hand with me for a lifetime, but I didn't expect that his true face was so ugly. Now, seeing him suffer the consequences of his own actions, I just think this is the retribution he deserves. One day a few months later, the sun was shining and the breeze was not dry. My friend and I made an appointment to have dinner at a restaurant. This restaurant is a place we often visit. The environment is elegant and the dishes are delicious. It has always been favored by us. We sat by the window, enjoying the fruit and chatting happily. Suddenly, my friend looked over my shoulder and looked not far away, with a look of surprise on his face. I subconsciously turned my head and followed her gaze. I saw Xavier and a strange woman sitting at a table not far away, having a blind date. I was slightly startled. I didn't expect to meet him here. I looked at him quietly. After not seeing him for a few months, he seemed to have changed. His face was obviously haggard and tired, and his eyes were full of deep loneliness and helplessness. His hair was a little messy, and his stubble was not shaved clean. He looked listless, and he was completely different from the high-spirited him in my memory. The blind date woman sat opposite him, with delicate make-up and fashionable clothes. She frowned, with a look of disgust on her face, and kept saying something. From her expression and actions, it can be seen that she is not satisfied with Xavier. Look at you. You have no car, no house, and you have a child. How can you live in the future? I don't want to live a hard life as soon as I get married, the woman said bluntly, her tone full of disgust and disdain. Xavier's face became ugly. He clenched his fist tightly, and his knuckles turned white because of the force. He lowered his head, trying to hide his embarrassment and anger, but I still saw a flash of humiliation in his eyes. I will work hard, and things will get better in the future, Xavier whispered, with a hint of helplessness and bitterness in his voice. What's the point of working hard? I can't wait that long. Look at the society now. You can't do anything without money. The woman sneered, and the sarcasm on her face became more obvious. Xavier was choked by the woman's words and couldn't speak. His lips trembled slightly, as if he wanted to refute, but he finally held back. His eyes were full of helplessness and despair, as if he had lost confidence in his future. Just then, Xavier raised his head inadvertently, and his eyes met mine. His body suddenly stiffened, and his face showed a complex expression with regret, annoyance, sadness, and some apology. I don't know if it was because of self-confidence or something else. Xavier changed his previous cowardice and said contemptuously, "What about you? How good are you? A brother waiting to suck your blood, and an ex-boyfriend who broke up less than 3 days ago." His voice was not loud, but it was particularly clear in the quiet restaurant. I didn't expect him to say such a thing suddenly, and a surge of anger surged in my heart. I looked at him coldly and said, "Xavier, if you are not happy with your life, don't bite people here. You don't have to worry about my affairs. You should take care of yourself first." The blind date woman was also very angry when she heard Xavier's words. She didn't expect Xavier to say this, and her face turned red and white. She stood up suddenly, poured a glass of water on Xavier's face, and said angrily, "Why are you like this? If it's not suitable, it's not suitable. Why are you scolding people?" The water flowed down Xavier's cheeks and wet his clothes. He sat there blankly, his eyes empty, as if he had lost his soul. He didn't speak again, but just silently picked up the paper towel on the table and wiped the water off his face. I looked at him without a trace of sympathy in my heart, only full of contempt. Once, I thought he was a responsible man, but now it seems that he is just a loser, a poor guy beaten down by life. I turned my head away from him and continued chatting with my friend. My friend looked at me and asked worriedly, "Isolde, are you okay?" I smiled and said, "What can happen to me? He has nothing to do with me anymore. Let the past go. I only care about my future now." My friend nodded and said, "That's good. I feel relieved that you think so. You deserve a better life. Don't let him affect your mood." We finished our meal and got up to leave. When I passed by Xavier's table, I couldn't help but look at him again. He was still sitting there, staring blankly ahead, as if he had been immersed in his own world. Walking out of the restaurant, the sun shone on my body warm. I took a deep breath, my heart full of expectations for the future. The pain of the past has become history, and I believe that the days to come will definitely be better. I will meet the person who truly understands and loves me, and go through every stage of life with him, and create a happy life that belongs to us together.